Longtime teammates with Phil Jackson during the heyday of the Knicks. Walt was across the street during the news conference. He now joins us from across the street. Walt, Clyde, your reaction from what has happened so far here today?
Hey, man, a lot of excitement. I know I'm percolating. The whole city. I relate this to Bill Bradley. When Bill Bradley came to the Knicks, this type of excitement. When we got Patrick Ewing in the draft, also like that, Jeremy Lin. And now Phil Jackson coming, so very exciting day for Madison Square Garden.
Clyde, you know, when you think about it, it really is a long time coming to have Phil Jackson. We've seen his name come up many, many times, you know, in the past when it comes to the connection to the Knicks. But for you personally, what does it mean to have an old teammate, an old roommate, somebody you know and trust? You've talked about how players don't come to you sometimes enough for advice. To have him around, do you think maybe your advice will be taking a little bit more from a lot of players?
Yeah, well, I think he understands the nuances of everything here. He's won here, so he knows the expectations. So I think that's definitely going to help the club. And as we talk now, I'll bring in action. Phil, have a seat. Come on in. So, yeah, I like that aspect of it. So get Phil wide up here. Welcome home, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Clyde.
Well, I was just talking about the hoopla, Phil. I mentioned Bill Bradley when Bradley first came to the team, when we got Patrick Ewing. So how exciting is this for you as well?
Well, it's nice to see the anticipation. I think it's really important. I think it puts us, a little bit of a note, an asterisk out there for the fans that, Guard's moving ahead. We're moving forward. We have a vision. We have a plan. We're going to work on this plan to try and bring a basketball championship back to New York.
So 13 championships. You've accomplished all that Hall of Fame. Why are you coming back now?
I said in my remarks that I'm too old to play and too lame to coach. But some of it has to be about the fact that if I could still get up and down the court and coach, I'd probably be there, even though my generation's kind of moved past, and we know what that's like. I mean, remember Red came, and I think he turned 50 the first year that he was coaching the Knicks back, and we thought he was an old man at that time. And now we have coaches that are easily in their 60s and 65 that are still coaching the NBA. But in the process of going through retirement and thinking about how I could bring back some of the things that I've learned, and input some of the things that I think our basketball has lost. I think I talked a little bit about just the skills of basketball playing, the basic things that you and I were taught as players that you brought into the NBA. A lot of our young players at this level have had jump the fundamental aspects of their game. They've gone from maybe high school, maybe AAU ball, maybe 1 year of college, and come to the NBA, and they haven't really mastered the skills. And even the skills, I think, have to be important. And so all these things are part of the vision that I think of bringing basketball back. And everybody that's a New York Knicks fan thinks they're a coach or a player or knows how basketball should be played. And I love that aspect about New York and playing, and the give and go and all those things that are just part of the playground here in New York. And I have friends that have been my friends for 45 years. They're still playing basketball. They still go out and play basketball on Tuesday nights in their 70s, 60s, late 60s. And so I know how important the game is and to the fans here and how much they'll invest in this team.
Okay, but as a coach, you were able to implement that because of who you are, but now you're an executive, so how are you going to relate that to the players?
Well, you have to set down some parameters for the people that work for you because, basically the buck stops with me. And, that's the assurances I wanted to give Jim Dolan is that, yes, I'm going to take care of this end of it. And, coaches, scouts, assistant coaches, people that are personnel, people that are in video, we're going to all have a direction in which we're funneling, how to play the game and the direction of the game that we want to be seen and how we want to exhibit the skills that we have on the floor. So I think those are, paramount issues that you do. And Woody's got a good background. I mean, he came from Indiana. He's played for some good coaches. He worked with Larry Brown. Here he is in this job. And, he had a training camp in which 4 of his players weren't even in training camp. They got off to a terrible start this year, and a lot of it's just because they didn't have a group that could start working together and building that cohesiveness that a team has to have. And you know what that's all about. I mean, you know, we're out at in Huntington and Farmingdale, you know, working on our skills back in the 60s to build what we thought was going to be a championship team, and that's where you develop it, you know, really like in training camp and moving forward. And if you don't have that, that becomes an issue for your season.
What do you see as the biggest challenge trying to turn the team around?
Obviously, players. You know, the players that you put on the floor obviously have to have, you know, a certain sense about them. You know, remember that book, Brad, about Bradley, A Sense of Where You're At? I mean, that was basically, you know, the theme of the book that came out about Bill when he was still in college, that he had this, you know, innate sense. You have that. Where are your players? Where are your teammates? How's your defense? You know, Red was always never turn your back to the ball, always see the ball, you man. You know, all these little important things, you know, are just, you know, really features that I think, you know, have to come back and be, you know, directed to players. Red was like, basketball is not a rocket science sport. You stay between your man and the ball, and in basketball you hit the open man, you know, at the offensive end. Now, it's gotten a lot more complicated like that because we're running offensive systems and patterns, and, you know, the screen roll tries to disorient defenses and get defenses spread out and disoriented, but it's still the same thing. Stay in front of your man, keep your defense compact, help each other out. Your weakest link is like a chain. If that weakest link is broken, the chain breaks, and that was the idea that our defense was built on in those days, and it's still an idea of how you have to play defense. It has to be a unified effort, and that's where, you know, it really has to start, is because players get the confidence that, you know, hey, I'm not, you know, I'm going to have trouble with this guy tonight. Will I have help? Will there be someone back there? Now, Tyson was able to, you know, comment a couple years ago about his ability to win the Defensive Player of the Year because his teammates let so many guys go by him to the lane, and he challenged him at the basket. That got old, and Tyson is getting older too, and there has to be better defense than that. And obviously, that's one of the keys to building a championship team, is building around that.
So let me throw some things that are synonymous with you in winning triangle offense.
Yeah, no doubt. So there's a number of times when, you know, the triangle's been assailed as, you know, archaic and slow, you know, but there's some real logical things about it that does really right. Like, it's offensive people to the board. You dedicated offensive rebounds. That's something that's pretty basically lost in this day of the way we play right now. And the other things are, you know, defensive balance and how you approach all those little aspects of the game. And to me, it's not about triangle offense. It's about a system. Give me a system so when a team gets down the floor, you know, the coach doesn't have to jump out of his seat, run to half court, and say, we want to run the one play. That the team knows what they're going to run when they're on the court. That transition goes from transition to flow to offense without letting the defense reset itself. So those are important things about having a system, is that people know how to activate the game together so that there's not a lull or a period and everything stops, and then, okay, now we're going to play offense. The defense got back and stopped us on transition. So those are some of the really important points that come along with the triangle offense and come along with system offense, is that there's a method. There's a method that goes into this. You have chaos. You have basketball is basically chaotic in itself. And from the most part, sets don't work in the NBA. They work a little bit in first quarters, maybe third quarter, little special plays. It's how you format your players on the floor so that they can have the best opportunity to recreate and to have an offensive opportunity to score, and a team that have a second chance or an offensive rebound. And so those are things that go along with having a system of offense. So it's not, you know, just one guy dribbling up the court, maybe taking a shot without a pass. Those are things that kind of, unless it's in transition, are things that kind of irritate me as a coach and as a person of basketball mind. And so those will be things that I think will be a really big part of the direction that this team is going to be headed towards.
Well, do you fit the system to the players, or the players to the system?
Any good offensive system has in it any skill a player has that is necessary to be. He's a good driver, he's a good offensive rebounder, he's a good spot shooter, he's a good one-on-one player, he's a good in cutting, and all these things. Any good system has a methodology that should incorporate all those skills, so players can find themselves a comfort spot.
Carmelo Anthony.
Wow. Well, Carmelo's got so many skills on the floor, scoring. Yeah, he's good in the post. He's good outside. He's a three-point shooter. I'd like to see him have a real ability to go to spots of various places on the floor where people can't, pre-register where he's going. The defenses don't know. They're just playing him as a cutter or as a pinch post player, as a one-on-one. Those are things I think. One of the nice things I liked about the team last year when Kidd was his team, he ran screen roll a lot with Kidd at the pinch post and set up mismatches between guards and forwards. And those are things I think Carmelo can get back to, in which increases his efficiency on the floor.
All right. Thanks for being with us, Phil. I appreciate it, man. Like old times again.
All right.
Today I woke up at 7-11. I said those are very good numbers. So hopefully that's a good omen for what's going to happen here, turning the franchise around. My man, Action Jackson. I call him Action because there's never a dull moment, and it continues. So back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Clyde, hey, great stuff with your old team. We saw a shot of Phil Jackson and Clyde Frazier, rookies together in '67-'68. They were roommates during that rookie season. They started together with the New York Knicks, and they won the championship together in '72-'73.